Chills, alright. Let's see what you got for me.
Number 10, Ghost Jail. A YouTuber named Junked Up Kitten and his friends are exploring an old county jail.
His name is...
Ghost Jail. A YouTuber named Junked Up Kitten and his friends are exploring an old county jail. They take a video camera with them so that they can make a parody of the Ghost Hunters television series. Little did the small group know that on this night they would accidentally capture actual evidence of real ghosts. Junked Up Kitten wanders around the property with the camera close to his face while narrating. He passes by an ordinary-looking jail cell window and doesn't think much of it at the time. When he goes back to review the footage later, he makes a startling discovery in the window. It looks like his parody show has turned out to be the real thing. From the other side of the glass, the colorless reflection of a man's face stares at him. You can clearly see the outline of the ghost's brow, nose, and empty eyes. His head is cocked to the right, almost as if he is sizing up a newcomer. His mouth appears to be a thin, expressionless line. If anything, the ghost has incredible timing. Right when Junked Up Kitten says that he is looking for evidence of ghosts, one just happens to show up in the window. It's almost as if the ghost was trying to make its presence known. Perhaps it was even trying to get...
No, because I'm trying to see this. Whatever.
Hold of someone who could free it from its miserable cell. Number 9, restaurant spooks. Most people think of houses, hospitals, or jails when they think about ghost sightings, but some of the most unsuspecting of places can turn out to be the most haunted. This footage was taken in a popular food joint during broad daylight. A shadowy ghost suddenly materializes in a Subway restaurant. It starts out in the shape of a human and almost appears to be getting a table. When it gets back to its seat, the black shadow suddenly changes into a floating...
That's just straight fake. No, like that's just straight fake. You expect me to...
black blob of an orb. At this point, an employee or maybe a customer appears to see the ghost in the doorway. Whoever they are, they look stunned for a second and then quickly back away.
I think bro just forgot what he walked in the room for.
As it floats up to the window and lingers there. It's almost as if it's taking a look at the outside world. The ghost starts to rise even higher and shrinks until it fully disappears back to wherever it came from. Number 8, the Ghost Stadium. Ghosts don't have to wait until nighttime before they can begin to haunt. As this Brazilian soccer footage shows, the crowd is happily cheering on their favorite team when suddenly a shadow ghost starts sprinting through all of them. Look closely and you'll notice how nobody tries to move out of the way. Even though a person is clearly running full speed at them, not a single person tries to pull their legs in or even bothers to look up. They are so concentrated on the game that they do not see, feel, or hear the ghost as it runs directly through the half-filled stadium in a straight line. Number 7, Fridge Ghost. A YouTuber named No Ghost Hunter grows tired of living in a haunted home and decides to videotape the disturbances for evidence. It's a little past midnight when he hears scratching noises, which soon progresses into running footsteps and loud bangs. These noises appear to be coming from all different areas of the home at once. The next day, his HD...
Are his parents in the house? Whatever, I'm not even gonna get into that. Hold on.
TV literally begins rocking violently from side to side all by itself. The rocking motion picks up speed until the corners of the TV are almost hitting the entertainment center, and it looks like the base is going to break. Then the TV starts rocking back and forth the other way. There is nobody behind the television, and there's no way they could have been using strings to do this. The day after, No Ghost Hunter finds a short video.
What do you mean there was no way they could have been using string? No, there's always a way.
On his phone that he is 100% sure he did not make. The video is shot from the ground level of his kitchen. When you look at the reflection in the oven, you can see that nobody is holding the phone. The phone is literally floating in midair. Additional footage shows the TV shaking by itself again. This time, No Ghost Hunter is able to film behind the television to show that this is not a prank at all. He waves his hand above the television to show that there's no wires. And he even films underneath the base to show that there is no rod coming out from the entertainment center or anything like that.
Okay, I think he bought multiple times like a special TV that he figured out had the ability to do that somehow.
Door slamming open and closed again and again. The brazen poltergeist leaves the door open to make sure its presence is fully known. Number 6, watch from above.
Alright, that fridge video right there. Hold up, wait. Let me just say this right here. That fridge video. That was reversed. Look.
His refrigerator door slamming open and closed again and again. The brazen poltergeist leaves the door open to make sure its presence is fully known. Number 6. Watched from above. A group of British friends are playing catch in a courtyard when one of them sees something strange and points it out to the others. The camera follows his
What's he
gaze
see?
and stops on a pale face looking at them from high above. The sickly person looks at them for a second longer before silently slipping out of view. The group is now creeped out and wants to know who has been
Dude, that was just your creepy Uncle Larry. Ain't no ghost.
spying on them this whole time. They tell the property manager about the face they saw in the window, but she says that it's impossible. The room they are talking about has been locked and unoccupied for quite some time. The manager goes
Dude, that's just a fake
up
story.
with them to unlock
Oh,
the
wait.
door and show them around. They try and find the person,
This
but
is
the
just
place
a
is
fake story.
completely
They just
empty.
acting.
There's no way anyone could have been up there, yet the camera obviously says differently. The mysterious peeper has
Manager.
never been identified. Number 5.
That's just
Old
an abandoned house. You got your buddy Jerry to look through the window.
Pete's Ghost. There's a famous pub in Sydney, Australia, called the Carlisle Castle Hotel. For years, this local watering hole has been haunted by the ghost of Old Pete, a bitter ex-employee who left the earth quite some time ago, but not his job. His ghostly antics have been caught on camera no less than 3 times. The first time Pete was caught on tape, he was helping a customer. The unsuspecting man opens the door to the cooler when Pete decides to grab 2 bottles of red wine for himself. His ghost grip must have not been too tight though, because both bottles go crashing to the floor. Looking at the footage, there's no way that the shelf gave out or anything like that.
Dude, there's just a whole person behind that shelf. All right, and also, you want to tell me? You mean to tell me here? This isn't a publicity stunt for that little bar? Come on, dude. All right, hold up. So the bottles fall out, and your first reaction, you just go, "Oh no, scary ghost, he's here. Old Pete is here." Like, no, bro, leave.
Bottles were thrown to the ground with deliberate force with no one nearby. Another incident occurred
Dude,
when
that
the
shelf
bar
could be
was full
hollow.
of witnesses. Everyone is happily enjoying themselves when a hanging red wine glass suddenly dislodges itself and smashes into the counter. Glass shards fly everywhere and the entire bar takes notice.
Also, are you sure there isn't some sort of like seismic activity that goes on near this bar? Because stuff like this isn't exactly normal. It's not abnormal. Like, it's not abnormal though. Any bottle or like the glasses that hang, they could just fall at any time. That's why I would never get one of them.
Although this could have simply been a freak accident, what are the chances that, of all the red wine glasses, the one that's directly underneath the server happens to be the one to fall and break? The timing is almost too perfect to be a coincidence. Old Pete strikes again.
Old
The third
Pete-
and final tape review.
Old Pete is not the villain. He is not the Old Pete strikes again. Get out!
A glimpse of Old Pete himself. The bar is empty this time when the angry ghost suddenly materializes in front of the security camera. If you look closely, you can make out Old Pete's head at the bottom of the screen. He appears to be waving. Many other bartenders and customers all claim to have seen Old Pete for themselves.
Dude, I could do that. I could literally do that. I could do that on on CapCut. All I gotta do is turn my transparency up on an alt video with chroma key on. What are you talking about? Talking about he suddenly materialized. Dude, that is straight edited. That's just fake.
In one way or another. It isn't uncommon for tapes to turn on by themselves, and the bartenders have seen what they can only describe as strange things while counting down their registers after close. To make this all even stranger, all of the bottles that go crashing to the floor are always high-end red wines. This just so happened to be Old Pete's favorite drink, at least when he was still with the living. Number 4, the church disturbance. Steve and Jake are wandering around the woods one summer night with a single goal in mind. They want to explore an abandoned local chapel that's rumored to be haunted. As they
That's my
approach, they
secret
see
goal,
that
too.
someone has written prayers and warnings all over the outside wall. The two friends instantly get a bad feeling about this adventure, but they swallow their fear and decide to press on. The rickety main door is locked, so they sneak around back. Already, they don't want to be here much longer. They had explored an old clock tower
Hold on,
earlier
wait,
in
what
the
does that
day,
say?
and they don't want to press on. rickety main door is
I think
locked,
that's
so they
just a
sneak
Bible
around
verse,
back.
dude.
Already, they don't want to be here much longer. They had explored an old clock tower earlier in the day and were greatly disappointed by a lack of paranormal activity. But they can tell this
Disappointed?
church
Okay.
is way different. The place looked and felt quite haunted.
I bet it
They go
did.
up some wooden steps and enter through the back door. They
I
shine
would
their
too.
flashlights deep into the church's main assembly. There's rows and rows of wooden pews ahead of them. They pass by a podium and notice a piano. Then they head deeper inside. Now
Let me
they
guess, the
find
piano goes
themselves
start playing.
inside of a small maintenance closet. They close the door behind them because they don't want anyone sneaking up on them.
And it's gonna lock.
It feels like anyone could be watching them right now. They see a ladder to the left. Steve is about to climb it until Jake jokes that a body is going to fall down on him if he does, so he decides not to. That's when the piano starts to play from outside.
Called it. Called it. Right there. Right there. Watch. Listen to this. Listen to this.
So he decides not to. That's when the piano starts
Yep.
to play from outside.
Oh man. Oh my god. Turn the light. Listen.
Okay, but that ghost be vibing there.
Should we go out there? Is that door open?
It's a soft and haunting piano melody that fills
Also,
the church.
by the way, I could
Steve and
probably
Jake
go
shut
and
off
find
their
that same thing on,
flashlights
like,
and keep
Pixabay.
recording. They debate whether or not they should go outside or stay here, where it's semi-safe.
Also, what are the odds that the abandoned church has a still perfectly in tune piano? Like, if that place is rotting from the inside out and has graffiti on it, what are the odds that that is a perfectly unscathed, in tune piano at an abandoned church? No, get out.
Realize that they can't spend the entire night trapped in the broom closet of a haunted church, so they turn their flashlights back on to see who is playing. Sitting at the piano at the far end of the room is a black, hunched-over phantom. They scream and shut the door. Jake cries for a
Phantom?
bit, then they run away through the back
Phantom.
exit. The music stops as soon as they leave the church. They were hoping that the music stopped because it was over, but in reality, it was because the ghost had gotten up from the piano to chase them. They run a good distance before pausing to look back into the dark scenery. It seems like they've gotten away, but then the ghost finds them and they run away screaming. The camera cuts off as they fall back.
That was your buddy Logan, bro. The ghost started chasing them. Dude. That was either your buddy Logan or the greatest musical performer, hobo junkie out there.
Deeper into the woods. At least one of them survived and uploaded this video onto YouTube, where it's
At
remained
least
for the
one of
past
them
2
sur-
years. Number 3, the teleporter. 2 girls are alone in their house when one of them sees something in the doorway. Pause the video and you can see it's clearly the upper half of a young girl who is dressed in old-fashioned clothes from another time period. She is floating in midair as she curiously peeks in on the 2 children to see what they are doing. One of the girls still doesn't see the ghost. She shouts at something that's on television and accidentally startles the ghost away. The girl with the camera follows the ghost as it retreats. The ghost instantly teleports and now stares at them from the top of the steps. The scared girls... The ghost instantly teleports and now stares at them from the top
There was a cut there.
up from the piano to chase them, where it's clothes from another time period. One of the girls still doesn't see the girl with the camera follows the ghost as it retreats. The ghost instantly teleports and now stares at...
Yeah, right there. There was a cut. The quality is just so potato-like that you can barely see it, but there was a cut there. They paused that so their great aunt Cheryl could walk to the top of the stairs in her grandma's dress and stare at
from
them.
the top of the steps. The scared girls run out of the house screaming. They stop only for a second to turn around from the street. They can see the ghost girl walking across the left window on the top floor. It vanishes and then suddenly appears
They
on the
paused
bottom
that. They said, Aunt Cheryl, do me a favor. I need you to walk across that window for me.
floor in less than a second. They scream even louder and take off again. Number 2, stay out of the attic.
All right,
Back in
I will.
2008, a man started to notice some strange activities around
Checking
his
under his
house.
bed for
He would
monsters? I
often
do
come
too,
home
that's
from
all right.
work to
My
find
mattress
his
is on the
dogs
floor,
cowering
though.
under the bed, too afraid to come out. One of his dogs would only come out from under the bed for a brief 10 seconds at
Oh,
most
his
before
dog.
going straight back into hiding. Something was intimidating these large dogs badly. The owner starts to hear banging noises
That's
coming
called
from
being
all
an
over his
abusive
house.
dog parent.
He begins to look around. He eventually traces the noise to his attic and goes upstairs with a camera for a closer look. Everything is completely trashed. Boxes are overturned and clothing is scattered everywhere.
That's what my
Something
attic
has
looks like,
violently
too.
flung all of his personal possessions all around. As soon as he goes
Dude,
back downstairs,
I think he just told you that to cover up the fact that he had a messy attic.
he hears another huge bang and runs right back up the steps. He puts the camera down and searches the empty attic for clues. A nearby metal bucket falls over and he runs out of the room before he gets hurt. Another object hits the ground on its own and the camera
Fishing
moves to the
string. Fishing. You can see the yank. You can see the yank. Look,
He
look,
runs
look,
out of
look,
the
look.
room before he gets hurt. Another object hits the ground on
You
its
see the
own.
yank there? That was such obvious fishing string. Some dude just pulled on a fishing string to make it fall. Look, 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 look. It jacks outward before it hits the ground.
The camera down and searches the
Like from
empty
the middle.
attic for clues. A nearby metal bucket falls over and he runs out of the room before he gets hurt. Another object hits the ground on its own and the camera moves to the right on its own too. The homeowner was too scared to look at the footage. He waited a week
He's
before
just
going
fat.
back upstairs to get his camera. By now he is understandably quite paranoid. He begins recording everything he does in his home, and it
There was a week's worth of footage right there, and none of it was usable.
isn't long before he has more paranormal evidence. One day, his radio turns to static and a spirit orb rushes out the window. Later, someone violently jiggles the doorknob to the door that leads to the attic. The door opens and shuts by itself. The radio goes back to normal soon after. Things look to be going back to normal for a second, but then a paper towel roll suddenly flies up from the table to the couch, and the radio starts making more sounds again.
Dude. Okay, that was an obvious reversed video after the cut right there because, like, he opens it, right? Then you use the fishing string to, like, yank it towards the thing and then reverse the video so it looks like it's going towards the couch.
Video recording starts to get fuzzy too, as if a ghost is causing electrical disturbances by passing by. Both of his dogs begin to look in the same spot as if they are following something. Whatever
they
it
hid
was,
under
the
the
man
bed
was
to
never
it.
able to physically catch it on film. He was only able to record its strange and oftentimes violent behaviors. Before we get to number 1, if you've ever been curious as to what I look like in real life, then follow me on Instagram
Is
at
that you?
@chillinyt with underscores instead of
Is that you?
spaces. I also
That's
have a
me.
Twitter
That's
at
me.
YT_chills,
That's me.
where I post video updates. I'd really appreciate it if you followed me, and feel free to send me a DM if you have any questions or suggestions. If you'd like
I have
to
a
see
lot
more
of
these
questions. I'ma
videos in
DM
the
you
future,
later.
then hit that subscribe button because I
Your
upload
name is
a new
Dylan?
video every Thursday.
That explains it.
Number 1, Ghoul School.
Go.
This footage comes from somewhere in the Middle East.
This is not a
group
Monster
of
High
teenagers are
cartoon.
curiously exploring an old school. They go up a flight of steps and pause when they
Bro,
hear
he
a
thought he
dog
was cooking
whining on
with
the
that
other
name.
side of the door. They all run down the steps and gather at the bottom. They're afraid of being attacked by a
Bro,
group of stray
tiptoed up the
dogs now,
steps.
but they decide to press on
Bro,
and explore
bro.
them. They're afraid of being whining on the other side of the door. They all
Bro
run
tiptoed
down
up the steps like he
and
was
gather
like in Hotel
they're at
Transylvania.
the bottom. They're afraid of being attacked by a group of stray dogs
Bro, hit the
now,
creeper
but
walk.
they decide to press on and explore the lower areas. The group
All
finds
right.
bravery in their numbers and begins to joke and laugh again as they make their way down a long hallway. They open a door and find graffiti on the wall. Other people had been here before them.
Nah, Dib, it's a man.
This
Okay.
isn't so bad after all. The teens grow a little more nervous as they continue to poke around. They are laughing less and starting to go silent. Something just isn't right about this section of the building. A
Something
YouTuber
just
named
isn't
Zob and
right.
Jaguar translated
It probably
their
'cause it
comments.
smells rain.
He says at this point one of the teens say that their phone shut itself off even though it was fully charged only a moment ago. Another person was able
Fully
to keep
charged,
recording,
huh?
though they probably now wish they hadn't. They enter one classroom in particular and get a
That's already
dreadful
sus.
feeling.
I don't think there's a single person watching this video or not who has a 100% charged phone. Especially if you just walk to an abandoned school. Like, that's got to be at least across the street. Unless they got power that you just got done charging your phone in the computer lab.
Suddenly, a figure actually appears out of thin air and walks towards them. The ghost is missing his head, but there's somehow no blood. A loud chanting begins as soon as the ghost walks towards them, but this may
All
be
right.
prayers from a nearby mosque. Amazingly, the group all
Alright, listen.
appears to have missed the ghost.
That's a chroma key thing right there. They cut it out with the chroma key. Again. And I know I used this explanation already, right? But they cut it out with the chroma key. They altered the transparency. And then they smacked it in. And that could have been, one, a stock video with a green screen in the background, or two, I don't know, yo brother, Dylan number 2, with the jacket over his head doing that little trick.
Which explains why they calmly continue to keep exploring. They wouldn't see the apparition until much later, but when they did, they would never forget what was heading straight towards them in that room. Thanks for checking out this video.
Now, the only thing that would get me here is that, and like what makes me say that this is like a chroma key thing, is because of the shadow, right? And like you'd be like, but that would mean it's real, right?
Even though
but like if you ain't gonna notice it, you at least gonna notice its shadow, right? Like if there's a shadow on the ground in a fully lit room like that, look, you see the shadow?
Just missing his head. Suddenly, a figure actually appears out of thin air and walks towards them.
Look, he has a shadow. He has a shadow. You would at least notice the extra shadow on the ground walking towards you, especially since your camera was panned that way, so you was probably looking that way too.
His head, but there's somehow no blood. A loud chanting begins as soon as the ghost walks towards them, but this may be prayers from a nearby mosque. Amazingly, the group all appears to have missed the ghost, which explains why they calmly continue to keep exploring.
You gonna let us hear the chanting?
They wouldn't see the apparition until much later, but when they did, they would never forget what was heading straight towards them.
I wouldn't either. You gonna let us hear the
Thanks for
chanting?
checking out this video.
You not gonna let me hear the chanting? Okay. I'm gonna take a wild guess here and say there either was no chanting, or it was so obviously fake that this dude didn't even put it in. It's probably the second one too. Alright, as this dude said though, I would appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. I don't care if you hit the bell. You'll probably see it anyways if you subscribe. It'll pop up on your stuff. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.